Hey there, this is Elizabeth, the teaching artist for the Timken Museum of Art with another art tutorial for you. Today's project is all about making art for another. The gift of art demonstrates our love and appreciation for someone special to us. The subject we will use for this gift is a rose. The rose was requested by a student of our art tutorials because we do take requests. Just write a quick note with your suggestion in it and email it to the email address at the end of this video. And included in this gift you are creating, you will also be writing kind words or poetry for your special person. It can be as simple as a few loving words or a short poem. Here's an example of what I made for my special someone. I just added the poetry to the background behind the flower, but you could choose to do it differently. It's totally up to you. The art materials you will need are colored pencils, pencil, and paper. All right, let's get started. First thing you need to do is to orient your paper portrait. Then I want you to draw me this vase shape. The top of it will be an oval, and then draw a curved line from the left of the oval down and around to meet back on the right side of the oval. Next, you're going to draw a curved line from the center of the flower out and around to behind the flower at the top. Then you're going to loop back around, make it a little bit thicker of a shape, and then end at a point. Next, you'll go to the other side of the flower and draw a curved line, and then you're going to start at the top of the oval and make a curved line that wraps around and meets up with the bottom of the flower. And then I just extended that curved line a little bit. All right, moving on. We're going for the center of the flower. It's going to be a series of curved U shapes. The first one starts at the top of the oval to the left, and you're going to thicken the rim of the oval, and then you're going to move across the oval along the line and then come up above the edge of the oval and back down just a little bit. Then we're going to move over and make a sideways U from where we just stopped that mark. We will thicken the U at the curve, and then we're going to start and we're going to do another U off to the right, sideways U, and then drop a line down from the curve of the U. These are all the little folds inside the rose. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. This would be a great time to pause the video so you can catch up. Next, just add a curved line on top of that far right petal. It's going to make it look like the petal is turning down. All right, the hard part is officially done. Now we're going to start with the stem. Just make the stem a little wider at the base of the flower and a little narrower and straight as it comes off the flower and exits off the page. Then you're going to draw these leaf shapes that will be curved lines that have some edges to them because a rose leaf has a little bit of a texture to it. Now for the second leaf, I'm going to place it behind the stem. It creates a little bit of depth if we create a leaf behind the stem instead of just jutting off to the side, but you choose. You can pick where you put it. One thing to add is that little edge that I just drew right there. That extra line will make it look like that's the top of the leaf, and majority of what we are seeing is the bottom of the leaf. It adds dimension. Next, we're going to move up to the leaves that come out from underneath the rose itself. They're going to be smaller. They're also going to have jagged edges. You're also going to notice that I'm going to refine the drawing and erase and redraw where needed. Please always be willing to redraw and correct wherever necessary. Don't get attached to any part of a picture until the whole thing is finished. All right, now we get to move to color. We are only going to use a red colored pencil and a blue colored pencil. We're barely going to use the blue. What you're going to see me do, now we have a reference, first of all, off to the left, so you can see that it's just a series of dark reds, medium reds, and light reds. There's no black and there's no white. We're only going to use red, and where we need it to be really dark, we might add a little bit of blue. But what we're going to be focused on is the pressure of the pencil as we are shading in the flower. So we're going to have an even red in most areas to begin with, and then we'll come back through and color over certain areas that should be darker. And then the areas that need to be light, initially you're going to just leave white, and then later on you will shade very lightly over those lighter areas. When you look at that red rose to the left in the photo, you're going to see that there is no white in that entire picture except for the background, of course. So don't leave white showing through for the light areas for the red rose, because a light shining on a red is not white. Pay attention to how I change direction with the pencil to make it feel like it's wrapping around the form. So the areas that need to feel like they're darker and they're more recessed, you'll use an up and down stroke. That would be in the center of the flower, for example. For the areas of the flower petals that are starting to turn out, you'll change the direction of your pencil marks to relate to the change in the plane of the form itself. So the curved petal curves, so the pencil will change in direction as if it's following that curve. That will help your picture to look like it has dimension instead of looking like something that's colored in like a coloring book. Always layer your colors. We're only using red for the most part here, but even with the red, I want to layer my darks. I want to layer my medium values. I want to slowly bring the thing to life. I don't want to get too dark too soon. That's the biggest mistake you can make. But when you just layer up that red, you can see how nice and dark you can get it. So I'm going ahead and showing you all of this coloring process so that you can get an idea of how to construct it. So you've seen me get in there with the blue a little bit in some of those areas that are especially dark, but mainly it's just the red pencil itself. And when I come up to those light areas, I just have a very light touch going over those white tips of those petals. And that's what's going to make them look like they're catching light. Now, when it comes to the leaves, you want to have a variety of greens. Think about having a dark green, a medium green, and a light green. Now, if you don't have those three greens in your colored pencil box, no big deal. Just take the green, and when you need to make it darker, add a little blue, and when you need to make it lighter, add a little bit of yellow. Please skip white altogether in this picture. There's no white colored pencil in this picture. I'm paying attention to where things would be darker, like underneath the flower, or a leaf that's turning away from me might be darker. And then I will reserve some of the lighter values for the parts of the leaves that are sticking out the furthest, because I can make the assumption that the light is going to catch the leaf that's sticking out the furthest. So the leaves underneath the rose will be a little darker, and the leaves coming off the stem will have some lighter areas. Please notice that I'm not creating a hard outline around everything. Don't put a dark, hard outline around the whole picture to help you see it better. It's a common mistake students make. What I want you to do instead is, redraw a little bit with a colored pencil, but don't draw so dark it makes it like an outline. We don't want to outline our flower because it will make it look like it's a cardboard cutout and flat. Whereas if we vary the line and we have some areas that are lighter and some that are a little darker, it'll lend to the illusion that this is a three-dimensional form, even though we're working on a two-dimensional surface, which is our paper. Now for the stem, you'll notice that I'm using the blue in the center of the stem going all the way down because that's the core shadow, that's the darkest shadow. The stem is round, so the outer edges will not be dark because we have to assume that light is going to be reflecting off of those round edges, whereas that center core shadow is where the least amount of light is reaching, and that's why we make it darker there. But again, I'm doing all of this in layers. Nothing happens in one pass. It's always a process of layering the colors to get the richest, most dimensional look of your picture. The other thing I do is I marry all the colors together. Like I put that light green on top of the dark green, and sometimes I'll take the dark and add a little bit to the lighter areas, like to separate that stem and the leaf, which I did right there. That'll give a little separation between forms. We want to know the stem is different from the leaf. You're always refining your drawing. And the more layers you put on, the more saturated the color gets. And in certain areas you want that saturation, and in some areas you don't want that saturation. You have to pick where you want the viewer's eye to travel through your picture. So anywhere where the colors get really saturated and bright, it's going to be an eye catcher. So think about which areas you want the viewer's eye to go to, and then make those areas more saturated in color and stronger in contrast. Perfect example of that would be the red rose and the tips of the petals. The rose itself is very red, and the tips of the petals that are turning out are very light. And that contrast between the two is a big eye catcher. Okay, now the drawing's done, we need to add the poem. So go ahead and pause to write your poem, and then you're going to add it to the back of your picture. You can make it super easy and have it just be a stream of consciousness about how much you care about someone, what qualities you like about them. It could be a roses are red or violets are blue. It's totally up to you. It's just some sort of message that you're sharing with that person that you care about. The acts of giving and creating bring peace for you and kindness to another. Thank you so much for taking time to be creative today. Be safe and be well.